We may not know when the next NBA season is starting up again just yet, but let's talk some basketball. And of course, it is NFL season, so let's talk a little football. This is The Forecast. Sports card investors, I'm Amber Wilson. Thanks for hanging out with me again for another week. Now, you guys know on this show, I'm normally previewing upcoming matchups, but I want to do today's show a little bit differently because that's really limiting me to football. And I still want to talk some basketball with you guys. I still want to be able to talk some baseball from time to time. So on today's show, I chose 4 players who I think are really interesting in terms of their card value in the hobby. 2 from basketball and 2 from football. Now, I'm also going to give you all of their card price charts, and that's all available to you guys at Market Movers Lite, which is our new version of Market Movers. So go check it out at our brand new website, marketmoversapp.com. There you can find all the information about Market Movers Lite and Market Movers Pro. Market Movers Lite is half the price of Market Movers Pro. So go check it out, marketmoversapp.com. All right, let's hop right into things. I want to start with the NBA. I'm going to start with a guy who's not actually in the NBA yet. He's about to be in a few weeks because that NBA draft is right around the corner. And he is projected in most mock drafts to be the number 1 pick in this 2020 NBA draft. That's not why he's the most famous guy in this upcoming draft, though. He's the most famous guy in this upcoming draft largely because of his family, and namely his dad, even though it's his brother who's actually playing in the NBA. And of course, I'm talking about Lamelo Ball. Now, I'm guessing you know all about Lamelo Ball because we all know about the Ball brothers. Lamelo is supposed to be far and away the best of the Ball brothers, even though we haven't seen a ton of him because he didn't play college ball. He decided to go overseas. So unless you're really tuned in to international basketball, you haven't seen probably much of Lamelo Ball on the court. But we are talking about a number 1 pick kind of talent in this NBA draft. This week, however, we are hearing reports that he's bombing his team interviews. What does that mean? Does that mean that teams are going to pass on that level of talent because he didn't have a good interview with the team? Maybe because he's a Ball brother and being part of that family brings that additional attention and that additional scrutiny. It remains to be seen. There's a lot of weird rumors coming out now leading up to this NBA draft. But with Lamelo Ball, his 2020 Contenders draft picks, which is his first licensed product with him in it, came out just about 2 weeks ago. And the cards, they feature him. They started out really hot, of course, from this product, but then, of course, they came back to earth, as many Contenders draft picks cards quickly do. Because the NBA draft hasn't happened yet, Lamelo isn't featured in an NBA uniform. So these cards actually look kind of strange. He's not even in a college uniform because he didn't go to college here in the States. So this leaves a very underwhelming, aesthetically speaking, card to look at. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some of this. These are the picks of his 2020 Contenders draft picks base cards. Not the best looking cards you've ever seen. And here is his base autograph card, which is the card that people are really chasing in this product. Products that are coming out that you want to look out for, one of them comes out tomorrow, which is why I wanted to talk about Lamelo Ball here. His 2020 Prism Draft Picks basketball is released tomorrow on November 6th. So you guys want to look out for that release. Also, his 2020 Prism basketball, which comes out in March of 2021. Okay, so that's a card that you want to keep in mind as well for Lamelo Ball. And of course, depending where he goes in the draft, absolutely will affect his card value. But even if he falls a little bit based on these interviews, I mean, we're not talking much of a slide. I don't know if he's going to end up in Minnesota. We hear Golden State doesn't like him. I can't imagine he's going outside of those top 3 picks in this draft. So from a guy who is not in the NBA yet to a guy who is in the NBA already, a very young guy coming off his rookie season, but a guy who I think is really exciting moving forward in the hobby because of the way that he lit it up at the end of his season. And I'm talking about Michael Porter Jr. The Denver Nuggets forward had a breakout postseason and breakout time in that bubble in Orlando. He was a top-ranked high school prospect. And because of his size and his shooting ability, coming out of high school, he was compared a lot to Kevin Durant. So no pressure, Porter Jr. And his talent actually appears to be quite genuine. He broke out in that Orlando bubble. In his 7 appearances in the bubble, he averaged 22 points, almost 9 boards per contest. He shot 55% from the field, about 42% from deep. He topped 30 points twice, and he accumulated 4 double-doubles in just those 7 games. So following Denver's conference finals runs, there were multiple reports circulating out there that Porter Jr. was untouchable in trade talks with the Nuggets. Some people think that's significant because the Denver Nuggets were linked in trade rumors to guys like Drew Holiday and Bradley Beal. I never make much of that, frankly. I don't think anybody is untouchable in the NBA. It would depend what you want to trade me for Michael Porter Jr. Everybody's got a price in terms of trade unless you're maybe LeBron James, right? His cards, though, Michael Porter Jr.'s cards, they saw a real explosion in price coming off of that bubble performance. Those 7 regular season games where he had those breakout performances in the bubble happened between August 3rd and August 8th. So if you guys take a look at his card price chart, and this is his 2018 Prism PSA 10, look at that spike between those dates. You can see that in the hobby, people were reacting in real time to what was happening on that court with Michael Porter Jr. He was a top prospect out of high school. He's starting to look like here that he's going to live up to the hype, that chemistry he was developing with Jokic. He looks like a very good player on a very good Denver Nuggets team. I think the future is really bright for him. He's somebody who interests me quite a bit in terms of the hobby. So let's talk some NFL. And before I do that, I want to remind you guys, if you haven't done so already, click the bell icon. Okay, it takes 2 seconds. It's free. It costs you nothing. Do it right now. That's how you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we really appreciate it. And we really appreciate the support. That helps us out a lot. So let's talk some NFL. And I want to talk about a guy who is a long-standing vet here in the NFL. And a guy who I do think is Hall of Fame bound, even though he hasn't done a ton of postseason type winning here. Phillip Rivers. He's now on the Indianapolis Colts, even though I still think of him as a San Diego Charger, and the Chargers aren't even in San Diego anymore, so I think I'm just old, generally. Of course, Phillip Rivers, he was a member of that San Diego Chargers team for 18 seasons before going to the Indianapolis Colts this year. The Colts, they take on the Ravens Sunday at 1 p.m. Now, despite being an 8-time Pro Bowler, Phillip Rivers was never really able, so far anyways, I should say so far, the Colts are doing pretty well here. He was never really able to achieve that significant postseason success or win a Super Bowl. And he was drafted the same year as Eli Manning and as Ben Roethlisberger. So forever, Phillip Rivers has been compared to those two guys. A heck of a quarterback draft, by the way. I think all those guys went in the top 11. I think Roethlisberger was the 11th pick in that draft. I digress. He's always going to be compared to those guys because those were the same draft as him. And in spite of that, he still has a very strong chance of making the Hall. I think all 3 of those guys, frankly, are going to make the Hall. I know people debate even whether Eli is going to make the Hall, which is kind of crazy. Phillip Rivers, his 2004 Topps Chrome PSA 10 has essentially tripled in value over the past year. And that's pretty amazing. And I think that's happening because over the past year, I think people are seeing his career as winding down, even though, frankly, he has been lighting it up for the Colts. And so they're thinking that they want to invest in his card, and his card value keeps rising. You see that steady increase there in his card value. If you take a look at his 2004 Topps Chrome PSA 10, compared to Eli Manning's and Big Ben's, which, listen, let's go ahead and compare them in the card hobby because goodness knows everyone compares those 3 guys forevermore anyways in terms of their play. Eli and Phillip Rivers here, they're actually very close in price in terms of their value. Now, Big Ben is about twice as expensive right now as either Phillip Rivers or Eli Manning. Of course, Eli's no longer playing. Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger are still playing, and both of those dudes are actually doing pretty well right now. Rivers was sensational this last Sunday. in the Colts' victory over the Lions. He completed 23 of 33 passes, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interception. In his last couple games, he's combined to complete 52 of 77 passes, 633 yards, 6 touchdowns. He had just 1 interception, a QB rating of over 113 in those last couple games. So Phillip Rivers, who is somebody who is a legacy, which is why he's going to hold some value in the hobby, even though he hasn't actually won a Super Bowl, is adding to that legacy actively, and he's doing it in a different uniform. And low-key, the Colts are looking like they might be a decent little team here that I'm not sure anybody saw coming earlier in the season. So Phillip Rivers is somebody who interests me in terms of his card value. So from a vet in the league to a rook in the league, Tua Tagovailoa. He's got his first start on Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams. And Tua is one of the most sought-after football players in the hobby right now. His debut in the NFL, it's not really fair to pull his numbers, frankly. His numbers don't tell the story here. His numbers don't look very good, but there's a lot more to the story if you actually watch the game. And you guys know I'm a sports radio host down here in Miami. We do a lot of Dolphins talk lately. The Dolphins are actually surprisingly a very interesting team again. Obviously, Tua is a significant portion of that, but the real story out of Sunday's game was that defense and that special teams. Their defense was lights out for the Miami Dolphins over the Rams. Brian Flores is Sean McVay's daddy in that regard. So Tua didn't have to do much in Sunday's game. Frankly, that game was over by halftime. So Dolphins fans were frustrated. They had a really conservative game plan in the second half, and they were frustrated because they wanted to see what they had in their rookie quarterback. But why? You're talking about one of the best defenses in the NFL in the Los Angeles Rams with that monster pass rush. Why put your rookie quarterback in danger when there's no reason to, since that game was already won by halftime and your defense and your special teams had already won that game for you? So yes, he became a game manager in that game, and his debut numbers reflect that. Tua Tagovailoa was 12 for 22, 93 yards, 1 touchdown. He didn't have any interceptions. He did lose a fumble, however, at the hands of Aaron Donald, because of course it's Aaron Donald. He strip sacked Tua Tagovailoa. It was his second snap of his NFL career, his second snap of his NFL starting career anyways. That's one way to get welcomed to the NFL. So let's take a look at Tua's 2020 Mosaic Silver Raw. It's worth noting that whenever a product releases, most of the time there is a feeding frenzy early on. People want to get their hands on the newest hot rookie cards, and they don't care what they pay for them. And then, of course, there's normally that correction a bit where people calm down, and that's exactly what you see here in his price card chart. Mid-September, the product was released. It later leveled off. Okay, it leveled off around $200. Since Tua has been named the starter for the Dolphins, he was named that 2 weeks ago. They had a bye week last week. His card has started to rise in value. Now it's selling at about $250 to $300. The 2020 Prism Football comes out November 18th, which is the most important product that Tua will have cards in. So definitely look out for that. That is right around the corner. And of course, over these next weeks, I think we'll find out more of what we have here from Tua Tagovailoa in terms of how he fits in to that Dolphins offense. Again, guys, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. You hit the bell icon. It's super, super simple. Check out Market Movers Lite for me if you haven't done so already at marketmoversapp.com. I'm Amber Wilson. If you want to listen to me, I am on the radio.com app on a station called 790 The Ticket, which is the biggest, most important local sports radio station in the Miami market. But we have a lot of fun. We talk about sports outside of Miami as well, so you can listen from anywhere in the country on the radio.com app, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Also, of course, I'll be back with you guys next Thursday as well. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy investing.